Cool. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tempo Community Call, October 2024 edition. We have a pretty solid agenda today. We're going to go through some of the Obscon Observability Con happened a couple weeks back. We're going to talk about that. I was there. It was a lot of fun. We have a list of performance improvements. We've been pretty heavily focused on performance, and I think the next release will be very performance focused. A couple features, but mostly performance. And I think Marty perhaps is going to review that. Suraj as well. I'm not sure. We'll kind of hand it over to that part of the group, see what they say. And then we have an API v2 that Javi worked on. Javi's going to talk to us, assuming he wants to. If he doesn't, I'll say some words. If not, Javi's got it. He wrote the code. And we can also demo the full Explore Traces app. It's live in Grafana Cloud. It is open source, or the repos have been open sourced. It's available on the Grafana plugin catalog. It is 100% ready to go. And as usual, please feel free to type questions in chat. Feel free to save them for the end. This is always kind of an AMA. You're always welcome to chat and discuss. You don't need explicit permission to do that. Cool. So we'll start with Observability Con. It's like a conference we put on every fall. I think there's a handful of smaller ones too called Observability Con, but this is the big one. It was in New York. It was a lot of fun, and we had two big tracing announcements. One was the Explore Traces app was open sourced, and you can find that now. Let me share that link. I think you can also. Here's the repo. I'll put that in the chat here. Oh, Kim's typing a bunch of cool stuff. Thanks. So there's the repo. I linked it on the Explore Traces there. It's open source. You can also get it from the app catalog. I'm pretty sure there's like a plugin catalog for Grafana. Super easy to go find it there and download it and give it a shot. Really cool use of Tempo. Shows off a lot of the TraceQL metrics features that 99.9% of the population don't know, but those of us who do really enjoy. And so that was kind of the major point of the app, I think. I'm going to do a quick demo of it at the end. We've shown it before in this call, but I really want to kind of show the full thing, like what we eventually release, because you're only seeing partial results in this call. The other big tracing announcement was the acquisition of Tail Control, which is to kind of get our adaptive tracing story going. Admittedly, that's a cloud. That's going to be a mix of closed and open source proprietary, so less of an interest to this call, which is Tempo OSS, but just a heads up that's there, and we are excited about building out some of the features there for adaptive tracing. And I think that's underway now, if I recall correctly. Generally, there was tons of interest. It was really cool. Lots and lots of people talking about the Explore Traces app. I had a lot of fun showing people how to use it on their data. Found a lot of issues, which is the whole point. Very quickly identifying issues, what's going on. We'll look at some of that later. And then generally, it was really an engineering-heavy conference, which I didn't expect. I was expecting more markety, but there was tons of engineers. There's tons of open source Tempo questions. One group was running it at 1 million plus spans per second. I was helping them debug issues they were having with their clusters. It was a really cool conference. If you had an opportunity to go, I would encourage you to try it. Cool. I think that's enough on Obscon 2024. And I will pass this off to anyone who would like to talk about performance improvements.
Oh yeah, real quick, I wanted to mention that I think we've demoed the Explore Tracing app in like earlier forms on these community calls too.
Mm-hmm.
So in past recordings, there would be probably some good demos in there too.
Yeah, you could probably see the evolution of it through the past couple months. We've been giving you sneak peeks for a while now. What we have released, I think, is very strong. I'm very happy with what we released. We'll do a full review of that at the end. Cool. All right, Marty, do you want to do some performance stuff?
Sure.
And I think Raj also, if you're interested.
Yeah, Suraj, since you're here, do you want to cover the top half, which is kind of like your PRs?
Yeah, sure. So if you are doing tag lookups and typing in queries where you want to, filter down on values like I don't know, whatever values you have in your traces, they will be faster now. So hopefully you'll have to wait less for the autocomplete to return. Another major improvement is that is more noticeable when you are querying high cardinality tags. So let's say you're typing in something like, I don't know, block ID, and it has like a bazillion values. Now it will be a lot more faster. That's most of it. And we did it with, I guess, fixing a bug that we had. And then parallelizing the work that we were doing of collecting the results, and also adding a cache. So if you do the same query again and again, so let's say you're asking for service name again and again, now we have like a disk-based cache in ingester where the files are on the disk. We give you the results, no need to look it up again, and then the cache files fall off once the block is flushed. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, over to you, Marty.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I was going to add kind of like the autocomplete lookups, or we were kind of pushing Tempo to its limit in some of our installs with lookups of like 100,000, 300,000 values for autocomplete. So that's really what drove a lot of this. So yeah, I think if you're in that situation, you'll really appreciate some of these changes. Yeah, Joe, since you're sharing, yeah, that's kind of like this section here. So yeah, I wanted to talk about some TraceQL performance improvements that we had. If maybe you want to click like the first PR, or yeah, so if you have particularly complex queries, I think these things will help. We've spent a lot of time, like over the past couple of years, really working on the storage layer, right? So now we're kind of circling back and getting back into a little bit things that weren't at the top, but now the next bottleneck is in the engine. So if you've already doing things like using the latest parquet, you have dedicated columns, your repath is tuned, this will be the next bottleneck. And so that's kind of where we are. So there's not an example here, but like, yeah, just, showing some of the promising numbers for that one, and you could expand that benchmark little expandable tab.
It's too tiny. Can you
Yeah.
make it bigger?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Got it.
it's okay.
Let me stop presenting.
Oh, it's okay.
Marty's got
Yeah.
it.
Okay, sure.
I was just wanted to show the doc. I didn't realize there was a whole thing. Go, sir.
No, it's all good. I don't know. Okay. Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it's okay. I was just going to say, yeah, so we did, kind of like the way to evaluate some logic, and this is kind of like our suite of benchmarks. And so like pretty happy about that. I did put an example of what I mean, like with a complex query. So you have a lot of OR statements, different regexes, different conditions, things like that. So that's really where this is going to help a lot. This other PR is linked in here. Take a look at that one, but just together, I think like they should be really helpful. So if you already have a query that's like really slimmed down, scoped variables, it's pretty optimal already. I don't think this will really help, but if you have anything else, like I think this would be good.
Yeah. Excuse me. I think today.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Tempo's
something
been-
like this.
Right. Tempo's been really good at a bunch of ANDed conditions. And we're starting to attack some of the other queries that we've seen a lot of people executing in cloud, and it's not fast as fast as we want. And so, Marty is kind of making some good progress on that. The second one of those is really cool. The second one, it's for each binary operation, it's prioritizing the one that is allowing us to skip the most comparisons. And it's kind of doing that dynamically by tracking how much they're true or false, as well as how quick they are to run. So regexes will be deprioritized over like integer compares automatically, things like that.
Cool. Yeah.
Neat stuff. Good work, everybody. Javi, the newest member of our team, is excited to present the V2 Traces API, which I think a lot of people have been asking for. I think it was one of our more upvoted issues. So Javi, if you want to talk about that a second.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So until now, when you try to query for a trace that is very big, This trace exceeded the limit that you config in Tempo, you will get 500 error saying that the trace is too large. So we decided to create a new endpoint. This trace is version 2. And then we allowed to return the partial trace. So we stopped adding more data to the trace, but we just return the trace as a partial one. Also, this version now is fully OTel compatible. Previously, we had like an weird structure when we are like returning the trace as a JSON. And I think that Grafana is almost ready to use it, Joe. I think there is a PR.
Yep.
Almost ready. Yeah.
So Andre's been working on it, and I think there's a PR up to support the new endpoint. So instead of just getting that error you're talking about, you at least see some part of your trace, which can be very helpful in determining why it's so large, for instance. What caused this? What created all the spans? There's some neat trace geometrics queries you can do too, but I think it's just overall a much better experience than, a big red box, which is what you're getting previously in Grafana.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, good work, Javi. We appreciate that. He's got a couple other great PRs in, and he is also working on some good performance improvements too. So it's kind of, like I said, the focus of the team at the moment to meet a lot of the growth we've seen in Tempo. And feature-wise, we really feel like we pushed it for the past couple years. And we're taking a breather this release, I think. A couple features. In fact, Javi's also working on average over time. So there will be some features in 2.7. But a whole lot of performance focus as well. All right. Is the V2 API in 2.6? Did you say that, Javi? I think it is.
I think it's not yet.
Oh, I think I told somebody it was.
I think that the version 2 is there, but the partial one is not there.
Oh, that's right. It was 2 PRs. I got to go find who I told that and tell them that's not the truth. Okay, cool. Not in 2.6, sadly. All right. Next, let's get into the Explore Traces app. Like I said, we've demoed this a few times. Hopefully, I will be able to share and not lock up like I did lock up. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can hear
you. You can hear me. Okay, so I can. My whole computer is locked right now. This is so sad. I apologize. It took about. I'll just talk about the next item on the list while my computer decides to start working again. Pavel and a Red Hat, and I'm actually not even sure who PR'd this. I may have been from Red Hat. A fix for IBM Z series S390X, which everyone was clamoring for in Tempo. So our Parquet Go dependency assumed one of either Little Indian or Big Indian architecture, whichever one's more popular. And the Z series is the opposite. And so it was crafted essentially on the Z series. So I am kind of shocked and impressed that somebody went and figured out all the little assembly and corrected it all. And now we have support for some more weird architectures in Tempo. And the question is, can we update this in 2.6? And I think yes is going to be the answer. I'll put it on my list. There was one small issue we had with a header that Javi fixed that we also wanted in 2.6. So we'll do a 2.6.1. It'll have this very tiny bug fix that most people haven't noticed, but somebody did, where we dropped a header on one of our endpoints, search or trace, I'm not sure. And then we'll get this Z series S390X fix. And it's easy, very easy to release a patch release. And we can get both of those out, no problem. Cool. Thanks to Red Hat and who was this? Who was the original? I don't know if this is a Red Hat engineer or not. This was the original PR. I'm not sure who Vishwanath is, but thanks to this person for putting so much time into this. I think they worked on it for months, but super cool they got this fixing. Cool. All right. Yeah, Grafana Explore Traces. Here is the final product. Not the final product, I'm sorry. Here's what we released as the initial product. We have a lot of ideas still to come. But this was a lot of work from a group. Kim's on the call. She put some work into it. As a docs person, we had some product people, we had some UX people, a lot of people poured time into this. Very proud of the team. And the idea was to encapsulate the things that those of us who work on Tempo every day know: how to use TraceQL metrics to find problems and TraceQL select queries to find problems. Take those ideas and build them into an app so anyone can use it, and you don't have to go learn some new special cool language. You can just use Tempo immediately and get value out of it without learning a language first. So this is the basic structure here. We have different methods to explore your tracing data. So you can just kind of look at the rate. This is some fake data in SE demo is what we call it. It's a demo environment. Error rates. You can look durations. We have tools where you can see down here, if I'm looking at errors, it's broken down by all these different attributes. So I have two services here. One's erroring a bit more than the other. We could kind of filter down and home in on the one if we were interested. And similar for duration. So for our duration broken down by all these attributes, we can see this particular service seeing spikes. Some of these other services, not so much. We can make decisions here about what we want to investigate, what we want to dig on. We really built this around, I think, two major kind of exploration activities. The ability to dig deep down through a trace. So traces, of course, propagate context. They have all this structure. So that's what this tab does. It lets us look down the trace to figure out why error is occurring or latency. And the ability to look horizontally across attributes. So the ability to correlate our errors against any attributes in our spans, basically. So we have these two kind of investigation modes. And then a third option here is I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to find some erroring traces. And so I can very quickly and easily just look at this trace list right here. To look at we talked about this, the errors, this idea of looking down through your traces. So this is an aggregate view of all erroring traces, and it's showing us the path of errors, basically. So I can see across, I have some number of errors here. It looks about half an error second to an error second, something in that range. I can see in aggregate, all of these are the same path. It's always these two services, and it's always terminating in this Postgres query right here. So clearly I have some kind of issue with my Postgres database, right? I can also, run this comparison, and this is going to compare, it's going to correlate my attributes against errors. So shocker, the status code 500 is perfectly correlated to errors, whereas some of these other status codes, not so much. 200. Response size, that's interesting. Errors always have a response size of 21. Let's find something more interesting like span name. Okay, span name might give us a nice hint. This particular span is erroring a whole bunch and succeeding some. And look, whatever this span name is, ingress, has a few errors, but mostly successes. And these other ones are all fine. They're all successes. We can look at service names, and this is automatically comparing to all attributes, both resource and span level in our data. So we can kind of quickly say, oh, okay, let's see, this span is a problem. I'm going to add this to filters real fast. So now my data is refiltered around that span name. Glancing through here, I can see I kind of have no more options, right? Everything's pretty equal, meaning there's no strong correlations between my attributes and errors. And I think that's where this kind of plays a role more. I can correlate across horizontally what other attributes correlate, filter down, and now I'm going to use that filtered view to dig deeper into my trace. Cool. And a very similar experience for duration. So for duration, I can do this root cause latency, which is going to show me what the longest spans are. It's going to throw away all the tiny spans and show me what the longest spans are in my data that are pushing my root span. And comparison is going to do something similar. It's going to look for those attributes that correlate to my slowest traces, essentially. So very similar functionality here between these two. One is more focused. If I'm looking at duration, they're focused on duration, latency. If I'm looking at errors, then they become focused on errors, basically. And then finally, I don't want your fancy features. I just want to look at slow traces. That exists over here. Cool. All right. One last thing I want to show. Those of us on this call know tracing data quite well, and we know it's highly structured data. especially if you're using standard tagging like OpenTelemetry semantic conventions, then all your database calls are decorated the same way, and all your server, like your queue calls, are decorated the same way. And we can use that to not just look at traces. So at that, everything we looked at so far was traces. We use it to look at specific signals that occur in our infrastructure. So I'm going to look at database calls. And now I'm only looking at spans. All of this now only represents spans that were calls to a database. I can see errors per second on databases across my org. I can see the rate of database calls. Here's all this duration now reflects database calls. I can perform some similar operations here that I did before to figure out, well, what's going wrong. So now I'm doing my comparison tab on database calls. I can see what attributes are correlating. I can see this Postgres query insert, which we saw before is having issues. I can see these other names like select, delete. Some of these other names are fine. So I'm using this information to hopefully very quickly home in on which databases are having issues. I can see database name. I can see this FFS is fine. Whatever this is fine. But this Postgres database is having issues. So this view is going to very quickly home me in on the databases that are having trouble, as well as maybe the operations. So we have full traces view, we have the databases view, we have all these other ones in here, and I think we've built a very, very cool and powerful application for using Tempo, showing off the powerful features of Tempo, basically. One last thing is we are kind of speccing out, thinking about the next set of features here, and no promises, but I think the team is leaning towards a kinder landing page. Right now, you start here, and it's a lot of graphs and a lot of detailed information, and it might not be quite apparent where to go from here to learn something. So I think the next step for this is a landing page that might just show top 10 slowest services or top 10 slowest endpoints or something like that. You click on one of those, and then you enter this second page with the filters already in place. Basically, if you picked a service and a namespace and a cluster or something, those are automatically going to be added up here. And now I have a much more like focused view on what I might be interested in finding. Cool. So this is available in cloud. It's available open source. I think it's a one-click install from the app catalog or the plugin catalog in Grafana. Please get involved in this. Play with this. If you're a Tempo user, install it for your org. Give us feedback. I would love to hear that people are using this and are successful and enjoying this for sure. We are quite proud of this. We've spent a lot of time building this. I think it's awesome. Cool. All right. I think that's it for the agenda. I see I do have one question. Please, if anybody else has questions, throw them in chat, unmute and ask whatever you're interested in. Kim is asking for a time frame for 261, probably because she has to write the release notes for 261 if we were to release it. I don't know. Maybe we'll try to get it out. I don't want to say this week, right? Because it's Wednesday, or no, God, it's Thursday. What year is it? Next week, I think, is fine because it's not that big of an operation. It's backporting a couple PRs. And then the release notes should hopefully be pretty small as well because it's only going to be 2 PRs. And they're pretty simple changes, basically. So hopefully next week we'll have a 261 out there, and I imagine it's not really going to impact anyone. Primarily doing this out of respect for our Red Hat friends who have put a lot of time into Tempo, have invested a fair amount of time, and we appreciate these fixes and some of the features they have added. Cool. That was a lot of talking. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? What's up, Kim?
What was the response to the app tracing app at Obscon?
There's a lot of excitement. I think a lot of people are struggling with learning a new query language. When you work on a query language every day, it doesn't occur to you that it's hard to use it because you know it so well. But when you don't and you find Tempo and you think, oh, this is a cool tool, and you want your org to start using it, it can be very difficult, right? In fact, I bet 90-something% of Tempo users go to the basic search page and they select some attributes. They select a span name or status error, and that's it, right? So there's so much depth in what Tempo can do, and it was very difficult to show this off. And so I think that's what people are excited about. Suddenly, the things they knew about Tempo or the things they suspected you could do with Tempo are so much easier. I really enjoyed, in particular, people would bring their laptops to me out there. They have this like Ask the Experts desk thing. So I'm behind there because apparently I'm an expert. And they'd bring me their laptops and they would show me their data and explore traces. And it was so much fun looking at everybody's data. I could very quickly often find errors or other issues, help them discover why there was latency or other problems in their infrastructure. It was so cool for them to see how quickly this application immediately surfaced these problems that were difficult to find otherwise. So I encourage everyone to give it a shot. Please give us feedback. Feel free to file issues. That's an open source repo. It has, I keep an eye on it kind of. It's mainly owned by a fellow named Andre and Joey. But yeah, file some issues, get some excitement there. Ask for features. Let us hear what you think about it for sure. Hey, Kim. Hey, Una. Cool. I think you're just in time for the end of this meeting, Una. Is there anything you want to say? You want to add anything? You want to wrap it up for us? Just give us a good summary of what happened in the past half hour.
Awesome stuff. Just
It was awesome. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, we can wrap it up. I really appreciate everyone's time. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, keep on using Tempo. Let us know what you think about Explore Traces. Yeah. See you in the repo. Take care.
Bye-bye.